one thing about my childhood that's interesting is that I was never that kid that was really like aggressive, right? So if you're a guy and you're not the aggressive kid, you usually just you kind of get messed around with. And I remember back in the day. Do you remember when tasing was a thing? Like when you tase someone, it's like
With
you
what?
take you take your fingers and you just like shock them. You not remember like that kids would just go up to you and like tase you like that.
Wait, with like electric shock or just like?
No, with your fingers. It's just like
Oh,
did that not happen? And you,
I don't remember.
dude, this is a big thing in like my school district. Like everyone was tase each other. Like guys would just like come up to each other out of nowhere, just like tase you, right? It was like fun, right? One of those things you just like mess around with, like
Yeah.
Russell and tumble, Russell and
Yeah.
tussle, whatever.
Yes.
I remember back in the day when I was like, even when I was in a car ride, and there's like some super aggressive kid, dude. He would just like tase me, like tase me from the side, uh, and then sometimes even headbutt me. Like it was like this is like really young, right? So kids were weird, but like people would just like always be like tasing each other. Some people had like the most like ferocious tases where it's like they get like all four fingers and just like go ham on you like no mercy.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing about me is when I responded, I always was like thinking like, okay, first of all, I have to taste back because if I don't taste back, I just look pathetic, right? So I always try to taste
Yeah.
back, but I just never like hitting people, right? It was never a comfortable thing for me. So I'd always like kind of hit them and be ineffective. But if the guy is like super strong, like one of those people where I tase it and I can feel his abs, like this guy would just go like, he would use this opportunity to double up on me. So like in reality, it would be like this really weird dynamic where, hey, like this is something that kids did, right? I can't just say like, no, like, stop it. Like I didn't want to be that kid that did that either. So I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of like laugh it off, like haha, and just like tase them back. But I felt really uncomfortable on the inside. I know some kids enjoyed it a lot, and this type of like pattern repeated a lot and a lot. I remember like back in the day, I had friends that like sword fighting and like in sleepovers, everyone would just freaking take a stick, like just some random stick from the attic to the basement. Like the goal is like if you're from the basement to get to the attic, and if you're the attic to get to the basement, you just fight each other. Like insane. Like it was like not even like foamy stuff. It was like sometimes it was like crazy like plastic swords maybe whacking each other. And I'd always like join in because it's like what everyone was doing. But it was so scary. Like I'd always be like the kid that's like, like trying to take the cool
Yeah.
like this the secret route upstairs and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
but some people just going like they had no fear about these things. And the last memory,
Yeah.
I'll give one more. Was that back in the day, like I had friends that like when we used to do magic a lot, and like one thing we learned is how to throw cards, and like we were able to throw cards so fast and so far that we could pierce the skin of a watermelon. Like that's how
Wow.
dangerous it was.
Yeah.
But like some kids like for fun, we just started throwing cards at each other like really fast, right? It's just like for
Yeah.
fun, like just chucking cards at each other. And like I'd always be like kind of scared, like kind of running away and like throwing cards back occasionally, but it would always be like them chasing me kind of. So ever since I was a younger kid, I think I was always almost like the one that was sort of being bullied. But I wasn't
Would you say you were
exactly
bullied?
I wasn't exactly the because I would
Yeah.
participate. I would participate back, but it was always like a dynamic where there's
Yeah.
like a dominance hierarchy, like
Yeah.
where some people are more dominant than others, right?
Yeah.
But the interesting is like I would always participate in, but my I would always feel weird doing it.
Yeah.
But guys would always do these subtle things where you have a textbook, right? They like draw on the edges of the textbook, and you'd be like, so pissed because then you have to pay $20 at the end of the year. Like they would draw inappropriate things on the side, and I have to
Oh,
draw
on
over
your
it with
textbook.
on
Yeah.
the like if this was a book, it would be on the margins. Like
Yeah.
they would
That's
draw
that's
stuff,
fun
right?
doing that. It's
And then
fun doing
no,
that.
but
Yeah.
like they would draw like inappropriate things, and I have to draw over it,
Oh.
And by the end of
Yeah.
the year, everything would be like, coded with like pen marks. And then
Yeah.
other times when we had 3-ring binders, like some guys would just like to like have for fun, just like rip your rip the paper so that like you'd have to use like the
The
what is it like
circles.
ripped it away from the 3-ring binder. So then
Yeah. So you have to use the circles.
yeah, so these are circles and they rip it again. So that everyone used to do that to each other. Like draw on your homework or like do these things. And I just remember like back in the day, I was always that kid that like from the surface, like I never like participating in these things. I was never like you could say I was a good kid, but I knew that every single desire out of like trying like it was all sinful still, even as like a seemingly innocent kid. Like
Yeah.
the reason was so why did I not fight back? Right? I was like like, or why did I act in a certain way? Everything was out of sin. Everything was out of pride, caring about myself so much.
Yeah.
Being sensitive even is caring about yourself. Nothing was out of love. When other kids actually get bullied, like I would never really like do anything. Like I would just justify things. Like my mind was really messed up. But I think when you're younger, you can really see like everyone's more transparent.
It's obvious, yeah. It's obvious.
It's just obvious. Like people are mean. Like people used to make fun of the mentally like that was a big thing. Like and like friend groups would make fun of those kids that had special needs.
Yeah.
And you just laugh along, right? Because like I was that kid that just like always laughed along, always sort of like never had like that upper hand in any dominant, but I always kind of wished for it and always like it's just that weird feeling.
You didn't want to get stepped on, I guess.
Yeah. But it's just I know for a fact that like people might think they're good people, right? Like from the outside, like I really was like one of those kids that obeyed generally, like never really like disobeyed my parents, right? I would always obey my parents, but like when it comes to these like social relationships, I was always that chill, nice, friendly dude. But beneath it all, I don't think I described it well enough, but beneath it all is a lot of sin. And it's really hard to explain, but it's something that we clearly know. Even when we try to act good, it's all out of this motive to desire something that's not God. And it's really wicked. Yeah.
That makes me think of a couple of things. I think the first thing is like, at least for me. So I think most people, they go into high school, they go into college, they sort of like suppress those things, I guess.
Yeah.
They try to hide the fact that like, this is how they were in like behavior modification, I guess, right? To make themselves like seem like they care about people. And, I'm sure there's a level of that, like, okay, I've grown up since middle school, high schoolers are like, I've grown up since middle school, college students are like, I've grown up since high school. So like, some of that behavior modification is also at times, there's a genuineness in it, right? But it's interesting because like, if you dive deeper, right, like behind like all of the sort of like facades of like, oh, like, of course I'll help you, of course I'll do this, right? It's like, I even know for myself, right? But one thing I was thinking about is that like, there are people who put up that facade, I guess, that put up that like sort of like have that behavior modification and stuff like that, right? While suppressing the sort of internal, like the same desires, like we may have grown and be able to change our behavior in a way where those desires are not portrayed, right? But we still have the same fundamental desires, right? To advance ourselves. Like if we really cared about like, like poor people, like the world outside. Like I went to India, man. Like there are people on the street who are like begging for food. Yeah, people are begging for food, right? Yeah. Can we like how hypocritical it is for us to like pretend that we care about people, right, in the public eye, right, when we don't care. We would pass over these people in India, right? And like we were more than content in working hard, getting a good job, right, getting paid, right, keeping that money to yourselves, maybe giving 5%, maybe giving 10% to the poor, something like that, to different charities, right? I know Joe, so I know that he's not saying that like, okay, like this is just like these specific people who are like this, but this is literally all of us, I think. Like this, me and you and me, like we both feel this way. Like we ourselves have many things where we have like these sort of behavior modifications.
I'm not saying this out of spite for anyone.
Yeah, it's just more like a recognition of recognition of like humanity at large, including ourselves. You talking about how like you're kind of like, I guess, beta, right, in the dominance hierarchy. I feel the same way. I never really understood why like people were like so weird, like aggressive, like writing like writing like obscene stuff on like your homework and stuff like that. Like I never understood
why people weird. And like the people that are alpha are obviously like, I think it's more normal to be alpha when you're older and very not normal to be alpha when you're younger, because the alphaness of the younger kids, like if I went up to some guy in college and just tased them, they'd be like, what the heck's wrong with you, right? Like it was just such a weird thing. At some point in time, there's like a time or a grade where a kid realized like, this is really dumb. Like
this is gonna make me look bad.
This is gonna make me look bad. Yeah, no one does it anymore. But back in the day, they just carnal, I don't know. It's just like a very weird biological like aggressiveness in a lot of men when they're younger.
I like knowing how sort of drawn I like knowing how carnal I was, right, in terms of my desire for like popularity, for intimacy, all these different things, right. It's interesting because I never was like really in the pursuit of like, dominating other guys, right, like in terms of like, you know
Yeah.
it's really I was just never drawn to it. I don't know why. And in fact, like most of the other kids in my middle school and elementary school that I hung out with, right, my parents didn't really let me hang out with people very often, right? But the very few times I did, right, for example, in school, right, it was with the other Asian kids, right, who were also like the betas, right? In terms of like the dominance hierarchy.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. When it comes to these more aggressive alpha guys, they
Yeah.
actually aren't. They're not necessarily being mean. It's just it's almost like their way of being playful with you. Like when you like hang out with them, it's just like it's almost like because they think you're a friend, they mess around with you, right? It's like that. It's like when you have that guy that's always like, hey, giving you like a little like, I don't know, like a little squeeze here and there, like just kind of like a little dominating, but they always do it out of
like affection.
It's like the intention isn't always out of dominating others, but when you're the person that's being suppressed, your mind always accuses them as being like you antagonize them. Like you don't have you think of the worst case scenario for them, for their motives. You don't give them the best case scenario for their motives. You just have no love for them. And one, you feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable. Why? Because you're put down, right? You're put low. That's like we desire to be put high, right? Not put high in its dominating way, but we desire to be put high in people's minds. And I think for these people that are like put low and there's a desire inside of you to not, either it's to feel liked or to not feel disliked, but it's all drawn by that kind of dynamic. That's these social things. I mean, that's a lot of like people say it's like 75% of like it's all like psychology. You don't know if it's true. Well, like 3/4 of like what you care about or you think about is social related.